Ancient legends whisper of silent sentinels guarding the world's hidden wonders. We are about to embark on a global journey to uncover 28 of the most fascinating mythical guardians from the depths of human history. You will discover the incredible stories of clay soldiers standing eternal watch, colossal beasts ruling the untamed seas, and divine spirits presiding over the boundary between life and death. What secret treasures were these beings sworn to protect, and what hidden powers did they command to fulfill their eternal duties? What does the guardian you instinctively trust the most reveal about your own deepest fears? Deep beneath the soils of central China, an entire army waits in perfect silence. This is the Terracotta Army, a breathtaking collection of thousands of clay soldiers, chariots, and horses created for a single monumental purpose. They were built to stand eternal guard over the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, a man so powerful he believed his rule should extend beyond death itself. The sheer scale of the discovery still stuns historians. Imagine not just a few statues, but an entire military formation, with estimates ranging from 8,000 to over 10,000 individual figures. Each soldier is unique, with distinct facial features, hairstyles, and armor, a level of craftsmanship that suggests they were more than mere clay. A powerful legend whispers that these were not sculptures at all, but actual living soldiers transformed by a powerful magic into their silent, earthen forms to serve their emperor forever. While archaeology points to the work of countless artisans, the myth endures, capturing the profound belief in their sacred duty. Their vigilance protects the greatest secret of all, the emperor's own burial mound, which remains mostly unexcavated. Ancient texts describe his underground palace as a microcosm of his empire, complete with palaces and priceless treasures, but also protected by ingenious and deadly traps. Crossbows were said to be rigged to fire automatically at any intruder. Most haunting of all are the historical accounts of entire rivers and seas modeled in flowing mercury, a toxic element meant to represent the lifeblood of his dominion, its vapors creating a deadly shield for eternity. What other wonders and what other dangers lie undisturbed in that dark, silent realm, guarded by the unwavering gaze of the Emperor's Clay Legion? Centuries later and far to the west, another figure of clay was animated with a sacred purpose, but this guardian was born from desperation. In the shadowy streets of the Prague ghetto, a different kind of protector was forged. Rabbi Judah Loew ben Bezalel, a revered sage of the 16th century, is said to have received a divine vision, instructing him to create a golem from the mud of the Vltava River. This was not an act of artistic creation, but a profound and dangerous ritual. With the help of two assistants, the rabbi shaped a human form from the riverbank's clay. Then, through intense prayer and the power of sacred names, he breathed a semblance of life into the inert mass. The final, crucial step was inscribing the Hebrew word for truth, emet, upon its forehead. With that sacred inscription, the giant stirred, its eyes opening not with consciousness, but with a singular, unwavering directive. Its mission was to patrol the ghetto walls and protect the Jewish community from violent pogroms and blood libel accusations that threatened their existence. The golem was a being of immense silent strength, a tireless watchman who could sense malice and intercept danger before it reached the vulnerable families within. For a time, this clay sentinel was a savior, a tangible shield against the hatred outside the gates. But power without a soul is a volatile force. The legend tells of a turning point, a moment when the golem's programming began to falter. Some stories say it grew in size and fury each day, becoming a danger to the very people it was meant to protect. Others whisper that it simply could not be turned off, its relentless service becoming a curse. The rabbi knew the creature had to be returned to the earth. In a solemn reversal of the creation ritual, he approached the golem and erased the first letter of the word on its forehead. Emet, meaning truth, became Met, meaning death. The life force fled the clay body, and the giant collapsed into a lifeless heap. Its remains were then secretly stored in the attic of the Old New Synagogue, where some believe they rest to this day, a silent testament to a guardian whose strength ultimately became its own undoing. Across the shifting sands of Egypt, a different kind of sentinel has kept its watch for millennia. The great Sphinx of Giza, with the body of a lion and the head of a pharaoh, is far more than a monument of stone. It is the original mythical guardian, carved directly from the bedrock of the plateau to protect the sacred necropolis from evil. This colossal creature was believed to be a living embodiment of the sun god, a divine power that could ward off chaos and desecration with its sheer presence. Its lion form was not arbitrary. In ancient Egyptian belief, the lion was a symbol of royal power and the fierce protector of the horizon, the boundary between the world of the living and the realm of the gods. The Sphinx was the eternal watchman at that very threshold, its stone gaze fixed eastward to greet the rising sun and challenge any who approached the pyramids with ill intent. This idea of a riddling guardian, however, finds its most famous expression not in Egyptian texts but in Greek tragedy. The story of Oedipus tells of a malevolent sphinx that terrorized the city of Thebes, blocking the road and devouring all who failed to answer its cryptic question. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? Oedipus, with his brilliant and tragic insight, solved the puzzle. The answer is man, who crawls as a baby, walks upright in adulthood, and uses a cane in old age. Upon hearing the correct answer, the defeated Sphinx is said to have thrown itself from its perch and perished. This Greek tale reimagines the guardian as a tester of wisdom, a being that blocks passage not with physical force alone, but with intellectual challenge. This duality captures the essence of the Sphinx, a protector who is both a physical and a metaphysical barrier. Its silent vigil has fueled one of archaeology's greatest modern mysteries. What exactly is it protecting? For centuries, legends and scholarly theories have suggested the Sphinx guards more than just the visible landscape. Intriguing clues point to the possibility of hidden chambers and lost halls concealed deep beneath its massive paws. Geological surveys have revealed anomalies, suggesting hollow spaces or areas of different density under the Sphinx. Ancient Egyptian texts and even later Arab historians wrote of a secret archive, a hall of records, buried somewhere on the Giza plateau, containing the lost knowledge of a sophisticated precursor civilization. Could the Sphinx be the eternal guardian of this priceless treasure of wisdom, a library of papyrus scrolls or inscribed tablets that could rewrite human history? Explorations have been limited as the structure is too precious and fragile for invasive excavation, leaving the question tantalizingly open. The true secret of the Sphinx may not be carved on its weathered face, but locked away in the silent, unseen vaults it was built to watch over, connecting its myth directly to the enduring enigma of the pyramids themselves. Yet the idea of a guardian defined by its fears rather than its strength finds a powerful echo in the celebrations of Chinese New Year. Every explosion of a firecracker and every splash of red on a lantern has its origin in a mythical beast known as the Nian. This was no noble protector, but a terrifying predator that lived deep in the mountains or beneath the sea. According to legend, as each lunar year drew to a close, the Nian would emerge from its hiding place. It would descend upon villages, its massive jaws devouring crops, livestock, and any person unfortunate enough to be caught outside. For generations, this annual terror cast a shadow over the new year, a time that should have been joyful but was instead filled with dread. The people lived in fear of the monster's return. The turning point came not from a warrior's spear, but from careful observation. Villagers discovered that the Nian, for all its ferocity, was strangely afraid of 3 simple things. It was terrified of the color red, it recoiled from loud, sudden noises, and it could not stand the sight of fire. This was the key to their salvation. The next time the end of the year approached, the people prepared. They hung red paper cutouts and lanterns on their doors and windows. They lit fires and stayed up through the night, beating drums and pots and pans to create a deafening cacophony. When the Nian arrived, it was met not with silence and fear, but with a wall of blazing color and overwhelming sound. The creature, bewildered and frightened, turned and fled, never to trouble the village again. This successful defense evolved into the traditions we know today. The firecrackers replaced the banging of pots, the red couplets and decorations replaced the simple red paper, and the vigil became a family celebration known as staying up to guard the year. The monster was never truly slain, but it was forever tamed by ritual. The Nian's story is a profound transformation, turning a creature of pure menace into a symbolic guardian. Its very fears became the tools of protection, and the day it was once dreaded is now celebrated as a victory of community and cleverness over blind terror. But the mountains themselves were said to have their own noble protector, a creature that combined the majesty of the sky with the power of the earth. The griffin stands as one of the most enduring figures of legend, a majestic hybrid with the body of a lion and the head and wings of a mighty eagle. In the ancient myths of the Scythians, a nomadic people of the vast steppes, and later in the stories of the Greeks, this being was far more than a simple monster. It was appointed as the divine guardian of priceless treasures. These were not treasures hidden in man-made vaults, but the raw wealth of the world itself. The griffin was believed to make its home in the remote, inaccessible mountains of the east, where it fiercely protected vast deposits of gold from any who would try to mine it. Its role was to safeguard the mineral veins and glittering nuggets, attacking with terrifying fury any prospector or adventurer who dared to trespass into its sacred domain. This was a guardian of the natural order, ensuring that the Earth's most precious metal remained under the watch of a creature worthy of its splendor. The symbolism of its form is profound and intentional. From the lion, the king of beasts, it gained terrestrial strength, courage, and dominion over the land. From the eagle, the king of birds, it gained aerial supremacy, keen vision, and a connection to the heavens. This union created a being that represented the ultimate guardian, vigilant from every angle, powerful on the ground and in the sky. It embodied the perfect synthesis of strength and vigilance, a creature that could not be surprised or overpowered. This powerful image resonated through the centuries, far beyond its mythological origins. The griffin became a favorite emblem in heraldry, carved onto the shields of knights and the crests of noble families to symbolize the very qualities it represented: valor, protection, and leadership. You can find its likeness gracing the facades of grand cathedrals and important government buildings, a stone sentinel reminding all who see it of the enduring power of guardianship. Its legacy asks a compelling question: what treasures in your own life require the combined strength of the lion and the penetrating vision of the eagle to be truly kept safe? While the griffin patrolled the mountains of gold, the deep ocean held its own terrifying protector. The kraken remains one of the most formidable figures of maritime lore, a beast of such immense size that its legend was born from the sheer terror of the unknown sea. Norse and Scandinavian sailors whispered of this creature, a leviathan dwelling in the freezing waters off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. It was not merely a monster, but a true guardian of the abyss, an enforcer of the natural boundary between the world of men and the mysteries of the deep. Stories described a being so vast that its body could be mistaken for a chain of small islands, tempting unwary sailors to drop anchor on its back. Then, without warning, the island would come alive. Its massive arms or tentacles, each one as thick as a ship's mast, would rise from the water to encircle the vessel. The kraken would pull the ship and its crew down into the crushing darkness, a grim fate for those who dared to trespass too far into its domain. This myth served a profound purpose beyond simple fright. It was a natural warning, a story crafted to instill a healthy respect for the treacherous and unpredictable northern seas. The ocean was an untamable frontier, and the kraken was its symbolic warden, reminding every sailor of their own fragility. The legend almost certainly sprang from real encounters with the ocean's true giants. The giant squid, a creature that can grow longer than a city bus, possesses the powerful tentacles and alien appearance that could easily fuel tales of a ship-destroying monster. A sailor catching a glimpse of a massive arm coiling out of the foggy waters would have no other point of reference, his mind immediately conjuring a beast of legendary proportions. The kraken was the embodiment of the sea's dual nature, a provider of life and a bringer of instant, incomprehensible death. Its myth enforced a necessary caution, a cultural memory that kept generations of explorers from pushing their luck too far against the power of the deep. What other real and terrifying wonders of the natural world were once explained by the rise of a guardian's limb from the crushing, lightless depths? From the crushing darkness of the sea, we rise to the boundless sky, where a guardian of a very different nature spreads its wings. The phoenix offers no terror, only a breathtaking promise of renewal. This magnificent bird, cloaked in fire and legend, stands as the eternal guardian of life's most profound cycle, death and rebirth. In ancient Egypt, it was known as the Bennu, a heron-like bird intimately connected to the sun god Ra. The Bennu was believed to renew itself each morning, its cry marking the dawn and the triumphant return of the sun, a daily victory over the chaos of night. This was not just a celestial event, it was a cosmic promise of resilience, a guardian ensuring the world would not be lost to eternal darkness. The myth evolved through Greek and Roman traditions into the phoenix we recognize today, a bird of dazzling beauty with feathers of gold and scarlet. Its lifespan was said to be 500 years or more, and when its time drew to a close, it did not simply die. It built a nest of aromatic spices like cinnamon and myrrh, a fragrant pyre for its own transformation. Then, as the sun reached its zenith, the phoenix would beat its wings, igniting the nest and itself in a blaze of pure, purifying fire. From the ashes, a new, young phoenix would emerge, ready to begin the cycle anew. This act of self-immolation and rebirth made it a powerful symbol of the resilient human spirit, a guardian of hope that even from utter destruction, something new and beautiful can arise. It was seen as a benevolent protector of sacred spaces and temples, its very presence a ward against spiritual decay and stagnation. For empires, the phoenix was a divine promise of immortality, a sign that a civilization could rise again from the ashes of war or collapse. For individual souls, it became a promise of life after death, a guardian of the journey into the afterlife. The phoenix asks us a quiet, profound question: what in our own lives is ready to be released, not with sorrow, but with the faith that from its ashes, a stronger version of ourselves will inevitably take flight? At the threshold of the Greek underworld, a different kind of boundary was enforced by a guardian of pure, primal instinct. Cerberus, the monstrous hound of Hades, was the ultimate sentinel of the dead. This was no spectral phantom, but a beast of terrifying physicality, often described with 50 heads or more commonly, 3. A serpent's tail lashed behind it, and its back was sometimes said to be bristling with the heads of countless snakes, a living nightmare designed to paralyze any soul that approached. Its duty was absolute and twofold: to prevent the living from trespassing into the land of the dead, and just as crucially, to ensure that the shades of the departed could never find their way back to the world of the living. This made Cerberus more than a guard dog. It was the very embodiment of the one-way journey, the finality of death-given flesh, fang, and furious bark. The most famous story of this creature involves its only known defeat, a task set for the hero Hercules as his 12th and final labor. The challenge was not to kill the beast, but to subdue and capture it, a mission that required strength far beyond that needed to slay any ordinary monster. Hercules ventured into the underworld itself, confronted Hades, and received permission to take the hound, but only if he could overpower it without using any weapons. In a legendary struggle of pure might against mythic power, Hercules wrestled Cerberus, clamping his arms around the creature's multiple necks until its will was broken. He dragged the chained, spitting beast to the surface world, presenting it to King Eurystheus, who was so terrified he hid in a large storage jar. This brief abduction proved the Guardian's power was tied to its domain, for once removed from the underworld, its purpose was void. Hercules, in a final act of respect for its sacred role, returned Cerberus to its post at the gates of Hades. The story underscores a profound truth that even the most fearsome guardian has a defined purpose, a territory it is bound to protect. Cerberus was not evil, it was necessary, a vital part of the cosmic order that kept the delicate balance between life and death from collapsing into chaos. These European dragons were far more than simple monsters. They were the ultimate adversaries, colossal serpents whose very breath was fire and whose scaled hides were impervious to all but the most enchanted blades. Unlike the noble griffin, these beasts embodied pure malevolence. They sought out treasure not to protect the natural order, but to hoard it, lying upon vast mounds of gold and gems in deep, lightless caves. Their other famed obsession, the captivity of princesses in remote towers, was not born of desire but of a deeper, more symbolic menace. The maiden represented order, purity, and the future of a kingdom, while the dragon represented the chaos that sought to consume it. This created the perfect stage for the archetypal knight. A hero did not merely slay a beast, he conquered the physical manifestation of greed and anarchy, restoring balance to the land. Every lance thrust was a blow against the untamed wild, every victory a reaffirmation of chivalric order over primal chaos. But these legends were not spun from nothing. They were often humanity's attempt to explain the terrifying and unexplainable corners of the world. A dark, smoldering cave that emitted foul vapors and strange echoes was not just a geological feature, it was a dragon's lair. The rare and frightening phenomenon of a volcanic vent with its heat and poisonous gases perfectly matched the description of a slumbering beast's breath. Unexplored mountains and treacherous swamps, places where travelers vanished without a trace, were easily mapped in the human imagination as domains ruled by these terrible serpents. The dragon was a story told to give a face to the dangers of the unknown frontier, a warning to stay on the path and respect the boundaries of the civilized world. So the next time you see a depiction of St. George or a knight facing a winged leviathan, look beyond the simple battle. You are witnessing a fundamental human story, the eternal struggle to push back the shadows of fear and claim the world through courage and understanding. High in the mist-shrouded forests of Japan, the silence is broken by more than just the wind. Here, the mountains themselves are watched over by a guardian of profound contradiction, the Tengu. These are not the fire-breathing dragons of the West, but something far more complex, beings that blur the line between protector and menace. They appear in two distinct forms. The first is the Karasu Tengu, a fearsome creature with the face of a bird, often a crow or a kite, and the body of a human with sharp claws and sometimes wings of black feathers. The second, more evolved form is the Konoha Tengu, resembling a solitary Yamabushi mountain monk with a red face and a very long, phallic nose, a symbol of his immense pride and power. Both are masters of the wild, dwelling in the deepest, most inaccessible parts of the ancient woods. Their role is deeply dualistic. On one hand, they are known as disruptive tricksters, capable of leading travelers astray with phantom sounds or creating mysterious fires in the night. They despise human arrogance above all else and would often target the proud and the powerful. A samurai who boasted of his skill might find himself disarmed and humbled by a mysterious old man who then vanished into the trees. This was not simple mischief, it was a spiritual lesson. The Tengu served as fierce guardians of esoteric Buddhist teachings, and their tricks were a form of severe hands-on training. They tested the resolve of monks and ascetics who sought enlightenment in the mountains, challenging their ego and forcing them to confront their deepest flaws. In this way, the Tengu were more than just mythical creatures. They were the personification of the mountain's harsh, unforgiving wisdom. Legends tell of great samurai warriors like the famous Minamoto no Yoshitsune, who were said to have been trained in the art of swordsmanship by the Tengu king himself, learning supernatural agility and combat skills in the secret depths of the forest. So the next time you walk beneath the canopy of an old wood, consider the nature of the guardians who might be watching. Are they there to shield you from harm, or to reveal the harm you carry within yourself, waiting only for the right challenge to bring it to light? The silent judgment of the afterlife required a guardian of absolute integrity, and ancient Egypt found this in the jackal-headed god Anubis. Before the grand halls of Osiris existed, it was Anubis who presided over the dead, a protector not of physical treasure, but of the soul's most fragile possession, its chance at eternity. His very form was a testament to his purpose. The jackal is a creature of the desert's edge, a scavenger often seen near burial grounds. By giving their god of death the head of this animal, the Egyptians performed a profound act of spiritual alchemy. They transformed a symbol of potential desecration into its ultimate deterrent. Anubis was not a bringer of death, but the master of the rituals that defeated decay itself. He was the divine patron of embalming, the guide who oversaw the meticulous 70-day process of mummification. Priests performing these sacred rites would even wear jackal masks, invoking his protective presence to ensure the body, the vessel for the soul, was preserved perfectly for its journey ahead. His most crucial role, however, began once the mummy was sealed within its tomb. This was the moment of ultimate truth, the weighing of the heart ceremony. Imagine a vast, silent hall in the underworld. The deceased's heart, believed to hold the record of every action in life, was placed on one side of a magnificent golden scale. On the other side rested the feather of Mat, the embodiment of truth, justice, and cosmic order. Anubis himself would carefully operate the scales, his keen eyes fixed on the balance. A heart heavier than the feather, burdened with lies and misdeeds, would be devoured by the monstrous Ammit, a creature part lion, part hippo, and part crocodile, resulting in a second, final death and the annihilation of the soul. But a heart in balance with the feather meant the soul was justified, true, and worthy of entering the blissful field of reeds. Anubis was the impartial arbiter of this fate. He did not judge, he merely measured, ensuring the process was flawless and free from corruption. This made him a uniquely compassionate guardian. His duty was not to punish, but to protect the sacred order of the universe and offer every soul a fair chance at immortality. He stood as a sentinel against chaos, guiding the worthy to paradise and guarding the tombs of the dead from spiritual harm. In a world obsessed with the afterlife, Anubis was the one figure you hoped would be watching, a solemn guardian whose scales held the weight of an entire eternity. High above the blood-soaked fields of mortal combat, choosers of the slain rode on ethereal steeds. These were the Valkyries, the shield maidens of the All-Father Odin, and their guardianship was one of solemn and terrible grace. They were not passive observers of battle, but active participants in the distribution of fate. Clad in gleaming armor that reflected not the sun, but the stark light of destiny, they soared over the clash of shields and swords. Their piercing eyes scanned the fray, seeking out the bravest, the most honorable, the most fiercely courageous warriors. When a hero met his end, a Valkyrie would descend. Far from a specter of death, her arrival was a mark of supreme distinction. She was the guardian of a warrior's legacy, ensuring that a life spent in valor would not be erased by the finality of the grave. With a touch, she would guide the spirit of the fallen from the mortal plane, her duty to protect this precious soul on its journey to the halls of the gods. Their destination was Valhalla, the great hall in Asgard where the chosen warriors, the Einherjar, were gathered. This was not a final rest but a divine preparation. The Einherjar would feast and fight every day, their wounds miraculously healing each evening, all to hone their skills for a single ultimate purpose. They were being forged into an army of the dead, a celestial guard being readied for the cataclysmic event of Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods. The Valkyries were the recruiters and the wardens of this eternal garrison. They guarded the very process of preparation for the end of all things, ensuring that when the great winter fell and the cosmic wolf Fenrir broke his chains, there would be a host of the finest heroes standing with the gods in a final, glorious and hopeless defense. This intertwines fate and free will in a profound way. A warrior could not choose to be taken to Valhalla. That selection was the Valkyries' sacred duty, a matter of cosmic fate. Yet, the courage he displayed on the battlefield, the honor he held in his heart, that was his own choice. The Valkyries were the bridge between mortal action and divine destiny, protecting the cosmic order by ensuring that courage was never wasted, but instead collected and preserved for the world's most necessary battle. They guarded the hope that even in the face of a foretold and inevitable end, honor itself must and would make its final stand. The celestial battle between the sky and the earth finds its ultimate expression in the golden-winged form of Garuda. Born from a cosmic egg with a brilliance that rivaled the sun itself, this divine being is the eternal enemy of the serpentine Nagas, a conflict that defines the very nature of protection in Hindu and Buddhist lore. Garuda is not merely a bird, he is a king, a deity of immense power and even greater devotion, serving as the mount and loyal companion to the preserver god Lord Vishnu. Where the Nagas represent the hidden, often poisonous dangers of the underworld and the material realm, Garuda is the embodiment of the sky's purifying force, a guardian whose very presence neutralizes evil. His animosity toward the serpents is legendary, a fundamental opposition of light against shadow, of the soaring spirit against the coiling attachment to the earth. This made him a powerful symbol of protection against all forms of venom, both literal and spiritual. Amulets and prayers were fashioned in his name, invoking his power to guard against snakebites, black magic, and any corrupting influence that slithered into one's life. His most famous myth reveals the depth of his devotion and his role as a proactive savior. Garuda's mother was once enslaved by the Nagas, and to secure her freedom, he had to undertake a seemingly impossible quest to steal the elixir of immortality, the Amrita, from the gods themselves. He did not do this through stealth, but through a display of overwhelming might, defeating the entire celestial army that guarded the nectar. Yet, upon securing the prize, he made a profound choice. He handed the elixir over to the Nagas to fulfill his vow, but through a clever ruse, he ensured they did not get to consume it, thus preserving the cosmic balance. This act established him as a being of both immense power and unwavering principle, a guardian who uses his strength in service of a higher duty. As Vishnu's Vahana or vehicle, Garuda represents speed that transcends thought and martial prowess that defends the cosmos from disorder. His image is one of fierce loyalty and relentless motion, a golden streak across the heavens standing watch over the world. He asks us what poisons in our own lives require the piercing vision and swift, decisive action of a divine protector to be overcome. Deep within the ancient woods of Eastern Europe, the trees themselves hold a watchful consciousness. The Leshy is the master of this domain, a spirit guardian whose very nature is as shifting and unpredictable as the forest shadows. He is a shapeshifter of immense power, capable of altering his form to blend seamlessly with his surroundings. One moment he might appear as a towering giant whose head brushes the canopy, his long beard woven from moss and vine. The next he could be an old, gnarled tree that seems to watch you pass, or even more disconcertingly, the familiar face of a loved one calling your name from a misty clearing. This last form was his most dangerous trick, a lure to lead the unwary deep into the trackless wilderness until they were hopelessly lost. He was not inherently evil, but a being of profound duality, a reflection of the forest's own character, which can be both bountiful and merciless. His primary role was as a fierce protector of the woodland and every creature within it, a hunter who took more game than he needed, a woodsman who felled trees without offering respect, or a forager who damaged the undergrowth would all risk drawing the Leshy's wrath. He could unleash storms, make the paths twist in on themselves, or send waves of disorienting fear to punish those who showed greed or disrespect. His laughter was the sound of the wind through the pines, and his anger was the crack of a falling branch. Yet, for those who understood the old ways, the Leshy was not a monster to be feared, but a power to be acknowledged. Hunters and mushroom gatherers would leave small offerings at the edge of the woods, a piece of bread, a few coins, or a pinch of tobacco, to appease him and ask for his permission to enter. They knew the rules: to never whistle in the forest for fear of summoning him, and to wear their clothing inside out as a charm to break his illusions if they felt his presence. The Leshy was the ultimate embodiment of a sacred pact, a guardian who demanded that humanity remember its place within the natural world, not as its master but as a humble and respectful guest. The forest's wild spirit gives way to the ordered power of imperial stone. Flanking the grand entrances to Chinese temples, palaces, and tombs, the Fu dogs stand as monuments to a different kind of protection. These are not the capricious tricksters of the woods, but deliberate, symbolic sentinels, their roles and powers carved with absolute precision. Known formally as imperial guardian lions, their formidable presence is a promise of security, a pair of stone beasts forever on duty. Their duties are clearly divided, a perfect balance of external and internal guardianship. The male is always placed to the right of the entrance. He rests his powerful paw upon an embroidered ball, a symbol of the world or the celestial sphere, representing his sacred duty to guard the physical structure itself from evil spirits and malevolent forces. He is the outward-facing shield, the first line of defense. His counterpart, the female, stands to the left. Under her paw, you will always find a playful cub, sometimes lying on its back. This is not merely a charming detail, it signifies her vital role to protect the inhabitants within, to watch over the family line, and to ensure the safety and continuity of the next generation. Together, they form an unbreachable spiritual barrier, one watching the world, the other nurturing the home. But these statues were believed to be far more than symbolic art. Ancient traditions held that they possessed actual mystical powers to ward off negative energy and harmful influences. Their fierce, almost snarling expressions were not just for show, they were thought to actively frighten away evil spirits, their stone gaze acting as a spiritual filter that only benevolent forces could pass. The intricate carvings of their manes, often featuring exactly 108 curls, correspond to sacred numbers in Chinese cosmology, believed to channel protective energy. They were the ultimate guardians of cosmic order and social harmony, their silent roar echoing through the spiritual realm. What does this ancient, balanced approach to protection say about the things we value most and the different kinds of strength required to keep them safe from harm? A different kind of wail echoes through the misty glens of Ireland, a sound that chills the blood not with malice but with profound sorrow. This is the cry of the Banshee, a female spirit deeply bound to the oldest Gaelic families, her mourning song a sacred, if terrifying, service. Far from a vengeful ghost, she is a guardian of lineage, a messenger whose duty is to prepare a family for the most difficult of transitions. Her appearance varies from a beautiful young woman with long, flowing hair to a weathered old crone, but her purpose remains constant. She is tied to the land and the bloodline, a lamenter who appears at the ancestral home or a nearby stream to voice a grief that the living cannot yet feel. Her keen, that high-pitched, piercing wail was not meant to cause fear for its own sake. In Irish tradition, the lament was a crucial part of the mourning process, a public expression of loss and respect for the deceased. The Banshee performed this ritual in advance, her voice carrying across the hills as a somber alert that a soul was preparing to depart. She ensured the family was not caught entirely unaware by death's arrival, allowing them a moment to gather their thoughts, to brace themselves, and to begin the process of saying goodbye. This reinterpretation casts her not as a bringer of death, but as a witness to it, a spiritual sentinel honoring a family's contract with mortality itself. Her attachment was not to individuals, but to the ancient name, the lineage itself. To hear her cry was a mark of distinction, a sign that your family roots ran deep enough in the soil of Ireland to warrant such a sorrowful protector. What does it mean to be guarded not from death, but through it, to have a presence that acknowledges the weight of a passing with a grief as old as the hills themselves? The sorrow of the Banshee fades into the shifting sands of a far more unpredictable realm, where guardians are forged not from earth or stone, but from the very essence of fire. In the vast deserts and ancient traditions of Arabia, the jinn exist as beings of profound complexity. Created from a smokeless, scorching fire, they inhabit a world parallel to our own, unseen yet ever present. Their nature is a spectrum of possibilities, capable of great benevolence or terrifying malice, and it is within this volatile space that their role as guardians emerges. Certain jinn, through powerful rituals and invocations, could be bound to a specific duty. Ancient lore speaks of sorcerers and wise men who could command these entities to stand watch over hidden treasures buried deep within lost oases, to protect sacred oases from defilement, or even to act as personal sentinels for a king or a holy man. This was not a simple matter of giving orders. Binding a jinn required immense knowledge and precise ritual, often involving true names, specific symbols, and offerings that appealed to the jinn's own enigmatic code of honor. A mistake in the ritual could turn a would-be protector into a vengeful tormentor. This relationship was always a pact, a delicate balance of power. The jinn were not mindless servants. They possessed free will, intelligence, and often a pride that could dwarf that of any human. A guardian jinn might faithfully protect a treasure for centuries, only to turn on its master if it felt disrespected or if the terms of their agreement were somehow violated. Their protection was therefore a double-edged sword, a force that had to be constantly respected and managed. What would it be like to place your safety in the hands of a being whose fundamental nature is as fluid and untamable as a desert mirage? A guardian whose loyalty is not born of duty, but of a carefully negotiated and perpetually fragile truce. While the great dragon hoarded its gold in deep caves, a more streamlined predator took to the skies above medieval Europe. The wyvern carved its own distinct place in the pantheon of mythical guardians, a creature defined by its stark and purposeful design. Where its dragon cousin boasted 4 legs and often a cunning intellect, the wyvern was a beast of more elemental ferocity. Its form was a study in lethal efficiency, 2 powerful hind legs for launching into flight, and vast leathery wings that cast a terrifying shadow over the land. It lacked the dragon's additional forelimbs, making it a creature born of the sky, a raptor on a colossal scale. This very difference is what made it such a powerful and enduring symbol in European heraldry. A noble family seeking to project an image of swift, decisive power would often choose the wyvern for their coat of arms. It was not a creature of hidden treasure, but of open, formidable defense. Its image on a shield or a banner was a clear statement, a promise that the lands and people under its protection were guarded by a vigilant and deadly force. The wyvern's gaze was always forward, its posture coiled and ready to strike, embodying a state of perpetual readiness against any threat. Cities, too, adopted this fierce sentinel. You can still see wyverns carved into the stone of ancient town halls and flying on historic flags, especially across England and Wales. Here, it served as a communal guardian, its symbolic roar a warning to any army or rival lord that this territory was under constant watch. It was more than just a scary monster. It was a declaration of sovereignty and strength, a creature whose very anatomy spoke of swift retaliation from above. What values did these families and cities hold so dear that they required the emblem of a creature forever poised to dive from the clouds in their defense? The wyvern answers that its guardianship was not about patience or wisdom, but about the immediate, overwhelming power required to keep a world of shifting alliances and sudden invasions at bay. Across the sea in Japan, the fierce guardianship of the fu dog is transformed into a more refined yet equally potent form. The kame-nyu, or lion dogs, stand as silent, stylized sentinels at the gates of Shinto shrines and Buddhist temples. Arriving from China via Korea, these statues were adapted by Japanese artisans, their forms evolving to reflect a unique aesthetic of spiritual power. You will almost always find them in a pair flanking an entrance path, their powerful bodies often painted in brilliant gold or stark white, their eyes wide with a piercing gaze. Their most telling feature, however, is their mouths. One of the pair always has its mouth open, forming the sound A, the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. Its partner has its mouth firmly closed, representing the sound M, or the last letter. Together, they form the sacred syllable Anun, a representation of the cosmic breath of the universe. This symbolizes the beginning and the end of all things, the birth and death of all phenomena, the entire cycle of existence held in the silent roar of these stone creatures. Their duty flows directly from this profound symbolism. By embodying the Alpha and Omega, they create a spiritual seal over the sacred ground. They ward off evil spirits not merely with a fearsome appearance, but by representing the totality of cosmic law, a force that malevolent entities cannot comprehend or penetrate. To pass between them is to move from the profane world into a purified space, a transition they vigilantly oversee. They are the gatekeepers of a different kind of treasure, not gold or jewels, but peace, enlightenment, and the divine presence itself. What does it mean to be guarded by the very concepts of beginning and end, to have your passage watched by the silent, eternal breath of the universe itself? Yet another tree of life stands under the watch of a different kind of sentinel, one that soars above the peaks of myth. The Simurgh of Persian legend is a being of such immense age and benevolence that it transcends the very concept of time. This magnificent bird, often depicted with the body of a peacock and the head of a canine, is said to be so ancient it has witnessed the world end and be reborn 3 separate times. All of that accumulated wisdom is focused on a single, sacred duty. It nests high in the cosmic tree of life, a plant whose seeds bear the remedy for every illness in existence, and its primary role is to guard this source of all healing. When the Simurgh takes flight, the beating of its vast, majestic wings sends seeds scattering across the earth, purifying the land and the waters below and spreading wellness throughout the world. This is not a distant or passive guardian, but an active and compassionate guide. In the epic poem The Shahnameh, the hero Zal is born with hair as white as snow and is abandoned as an infant for this perceived abnormality. He is discovered and raised by the Simurgh in its mountain nest. The bird becomes his foster parent and protector, teaching him the secrets of the world and gifting him a single golden feather. This feather was not a weapon but a promise. If Zal were ever in mortal danger, he only needed to burn the feather, and the Simurgh would cross the heavens in an instant to come to his aid. This relationship perfectly captures the Simurgh's essence, a guardian that nurtures wisdom and offers its protection as a bond of deep, personal connection. It symbolizes a profound unity between the earth and the heavens, a bridge between the mortal realm and the divine. Its very presence suggests that true guardianship is not just about warding off evil, but about actively fostering growth, healing, and the potential for heroism within the ones it chooses to protect. What would it mean to have a guide whose wisdom spans the collapse of entire ages, a protector whose greatest gift is not just safety, but the knowledge needed to heal a broken world? A creature so deadly its very gaze was a death sentence, the basilisk reigned as the undisputed king of serpents in the dark corners of European folklore. This was no mere monster, it was a biological weapon given form, a guardian whose presence alone created an exclusion zone of absolute peril. Its origin story is as bizarre as its powers, born from a cosmic perversion of nature. The basilisk was said to hatch from an egg laid by a rooster, a creature of the sun, which was then incubated by a serpent or a toad in the dank darkness of a dung heap. This unnatural union resulted in a being that defied all categories, often depicted with the body of a massive serpent crowned with a white spot or a small crest, earning it the title of the cockatrice. Its primary weapon was its eyes, a single glance from which could strike a man dead where he stood. Even its breath was a lethal miasma, poisoning the air and withering the very plants around it, leaving a trail of barren earth in its wake. This made it the perfect, if terrifying, guardian for treasures hidden in desolate places, forgotten tombs, and deep, abandoned mines. Who would dare to brave a creature that you could not even look upon to fight? The very ground it walked on was said to be cracked and blighted for years, yet for all its overwhelming power, legends preserved a few curious weaknesses. The basilisk was said to be vulnerable to the crowing of a rooster, the very sound of its unnatural father, which could paralyze it with fear. More famously, it was believed that its own deadly gaze could be turned against it. A brave, or perhaps clever, soul could hold up a mirror, forcing the basilisk to meet its own eyes. The creature's lethal power would rebound, turning the guardian's greatest strength into the instrument of its own instant destruction. This paradoxical weakness reveals a deep truth about such fearsome protectors, that the very qualities which make them invincible often contain the seed of their downfall. What kind of treasure would be considered so valuable, so dangerous, that it required a living landmine as its eternal watchman? The basilisk was the ultimate deterrent, a guardian that protected its charge not through combat, but by making the space around it utterly uninhabitable to all life. Far from the basilisk's blighted grounds, the islands of Hawaii whisper of guardians who worked in harmony with the land. The Menehune were a race of small, powerful people, no taller than a child, who lived deep within the lush valleys and hidden forests. These were not mere fairies of folklore, but master builders of legendary skill, and their guardianship was expressed through the very landscape they shaped under the cover of night. While they were known for their playful tricks, like stealing food or moving objects, their true legacy was one of profound creation. They were the invisible engineers of ancient Hawaii, credited with constructing incredible feats that baffled later settlers. Their most famous works are the magnificent fish ponds, intricate stone structures built along the shorelines. These were not simple walls, but sophisticated aquaculture systems designed to trap fish on the rising tide, allowing them to be harvested sustainably. The Menehune would supposedly assemble in a long, human chain, passing stones hand over hand for miles to complete these projects in a single, moonlit session. If the work was not finished by dawn, the story goes, it would be abandoned forever. This connection to the night suggests they were beings of a different rhythm, intimately tied to the hidden phases of the moon and the island's deeper, unseen energies. Their nature reflects a beautiful duality. They were mischievous enough to remind humans of their presence, yet fundamentally benevolent, using their gifts to enhance the island's bounty for everyone. They represent the ancestral spirits, the first people of the land, who never truly left. Their enduring presence in the stories serves as a spiritual reminder that the islands and their natural resources, from the mountain streams to the ocean's harvest, are not ours to own, but are a sacred trust to be protected. What would these ancient builders think of the modern structures that now dot their shores? And do their watchful, playful spirits still linger in the moonlit shadows, guarding the true heart of Hawaii? A hippogriff soars where a griffin would never deign to tread, taming the impossible into a single, majestic form. This legendary creature is born from the most improbable of unions, a griffin and a mare, a pairing that defied the natural enmity between its noble father and its equine mother. In the sprawling epic of Orlando Furioso, the Italian poet Ludovico Ariosto presents this being not as a monster, but as the ultimate noble steed. It becomes the trusted mount of the wizard Atlant and the heroic knight Rogero, a creature that only the most virtuous and worthy could ever hope to approach, let alone ride. Its very existence is a symbol of love conquering the most deeply rooted divides, a living embodiment of the impossible made real. To ride a hippogriff was to be carried on a quest that transcended mere geography. Its powerful wings could carry a hero from the earthly realm to the enchanted palaces of the moon, bridging the mortal world and the divine with every beat. This made it a guardian not of a physical place but of the entire chivalric ideal. It protected the journey of the hero, ensuring that a quest for justice or truth would not be hindered by mountains or oceans. The hippogriff would only submit to a rider of pure heart and honorable intent, acting as a living test of character. Its loyalty, once earned, was absolute, a fierce protection granted to those who proved themselves worthy of such a sacred trust. What does it mean that our myths imagine a guardian whose first duty is to judge the soul of the one who seeks its power, a creature that protects the very idea of virtue by only serving it? Her dominion was the raw, untamed land before the first villages were built. The Cailleach, the divine hag of Gaelic myth, is not a guardian of treasures or tombs, but of the wilderness itself. She is the embodiment of winter's chilling breath, a creator deity so ancient she is said to have formed the mountains by dropping giant stones from her apron as she strode across the land. Her power is absolute over the weather, bringing the first frost with a single strike of her staff upon the ground and holding the seasons in a state of frozen suspension until she is ready to release her grip. Her appearance is as formidable as the landscape she rules, a towering figure with skin the color of weathered stone, one great eye in the center of her forehead, and hair as white as a blizzard. This is not a being of gentle protection, but of the harsh, unforgiving reality of nature. She can summon storms that bury valleys and freeze lakes solid, a destructive force that clears away the old to make way for the new. Yet, this terrifying power holds a profound duality. The Cailleach is also the fierce guardian and grandmother to all wild animals. During the long, lean months of winter, she protects the herds of deer and the packs of wolves, ensuring their survival against the very elements she commands. She is the spirit of the mountain, the loch, and the moor, a reminder that the natural world does not exist for human convenience, but operates on its own sacred, cyclical terms. Her story asks a difficult question: can you recognize the protective love in a force that is also capable of utter devastation? And would you trust a guardian whose primary duty is to the wild, not to you? The sky itself had a guardian, a being whose voice was the storm. Across the vast traditions of the Plains and Pacific Northwest tribes, the Thunderbird soars as a spirit of immense power, a protector of humanity and the sacred balance of the natural world. This was no mere animal, but a celestial force given form. Its size was beyond comprehension, with wings so vast that a single flap was said to create the rolling boom of thunder that echoed across the prairies and through the mountain valleys. When it blinked, the flash of its piercing eyes became forks of lightning, illuminating the darkened sky. Its role was not one of simple dominance, but of vigilant opposition. The Thunderbird's eternal adversary was the malevolent water serpent, a creature of chaos that represented floods, drowning, and the dangerous, untamed depths of rivers and lakes. In a perpetual cosmic struggle, the Thunderbird would hunt these serpents, snatching them from the water with talons like carved canoes, its lightning strikes searing the chaotic energy from the world. This eternal battle was not for destruction but for preservation. By keeping the water serpents in check, the Thunderbird ensured that the rains would fall to nourish the crops, but not so much as to wash the villages away. It maintained the equilibrium between sky and earth, between the life-giving sun and the life-sustaining water. To witness a storm was to witness this great guardian at work, a reminder that the world's balance was actively defended by a power that commanded the heavens. What would it feel like to live under the watch of a protector whose battles shaped the very weather, knowing that the rumble in the distance was the sound of order being fiercely maintained against the forces of chaos? Even the most powerful god requires a steed that can match his cosmic duties. In the frozen realms of Norse myth, that role was filled by Sleipnir, the eight-legged horse of the All-Father, Odin. He was no ordinary creature, but the finest of all horses, a being born from necessity, magic, and the unpredictable nature of the trickster god Loki himself. The story of his origin is as strange as his form. When the gods needed a master builder to construct a protective wall around Asgard, they struck a perilous deal. The builder, a giant in disguise, promised to complete the work in one season, and his price was the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freyja. The gods, confident he would fail, agreed, but only if he completed the task alone with the help of no man. The builder, however, had a secret weapon, a massive stallion named Svathilfari, who hauled stones with incredible speed. As the deadline loomed and it became clear the giant would succeed, the gods panicked. Loki, the shapeshifter, was forced to find a solution. He transformed himself into a beautiful mare and lured the vital stallion away, distracting him from his work and causing the builder to fail his pact. From this unusual union, Loki later gave birth to Sleipnir, a foal gray in color and possessing 8 powerful legs. Odin immediately recognized the foal's divine potential and claimed him as his own. This 8-legged form was not a mere oddity, it was the source of his unparalleled speed and stability, a design that allowed him to traverse any terrain imaginable. He was the guardian of the pathways themselves, carrying Odin across the land, over the churning sea, and directly through the air, bridging the 9 worlds of Yggdrasil with a smooth, gliding pace that other beings could not comprehend. His primary duty was to serve as Odin's mobile conduit for wisdom. The Allfather's thirst for knowledge was insatiable, and he frequently journeyed to the far reaches of the cosmos to consult with seers, drink from the well of fate, and understand the intricate threads of destiny that led to Ragnarok. Sleipnir was the vessel for these journeys, a loyal guardian ensuring that the god who watched over all could actually be everywhere he needed to be. He carried Odin to the underworld, to the land of the giants, and to the roots of the world tree itself. Without this steadfast companion, Odin's omniscience would have been limited, his guardianship of the cosmos fractured. Sleipnir was more than a mount, he was an extension of divine will, a creature whose very footsteps carved the roads between reality and myth. What does it mean that the ultimate guardian of knowledge relied not on a stationary sentinel, but on a creature born of cunning, capable of running across the fabric of the world itself? A dark horse stands alone on a misty moor, its coat as black as the midnight sky and its eyes burning with an unnatural golden light. This is the Puka, a creature of pure paradox from the heart of Celtic folklore. It is a shapeshifter of immense power, a being that can take the form of a sleek, terrifying stallion one moment and a shaggy goat, a shadowy eagle, or even a twisted, goblin-like man the next. Its true nature is as changeable as the Irish weather, a capricious guardian of the rural landscape who answers to no one. The Puka does not protect a treasure or a tomb, but the wild, untamed spirit of the land itself. Its interactions with humanity are a constant, unpredictable dance between benevolence and mischief. A lone traveler lost in the fog might feel a sudden, calming presence, finding themselves guided by a mysterious horse that leads them safely to a familiar path before vanishing into the gloom. This same creature on another night might leap from the shadows, scoop the unwary onto its back, and take them on a terrifying, breakneck ride across the countryside, over cliffs and through rivers, only to deposit them, shaken and confused, back at their own doorstep at dawn. There was no malice in this wild ride, only a potent, unforgettable lesson. The puka's message was always the same: you are a guest in this world, and the natural forces you take for granted are never truly under your control. It served as a living reminder that the land could provide bounty or bring ruin, and that respect, not domination, was the only wise path. To encounter the puka was to be stripped of your certainty, to have the boundary between safety and peril blurred into nothing. What would you learn about your own courage or your own fragility on a midnight gallop with a guardian who embodies the very soul of the unpredictable wild? A final guardian embodies the very essence of monstrous chaos. The chimera of Greek myth was a grotesque fusion of three formidable creatures: a lion's powerful body, a goat's head sprouting unnaturally from its back, and a living serpent that formed its tail. This was not a harmonious blend, but a violent amalgamation, a living symbol of nature's most terrifying and discordant aspects. It ravaged the land of Lycia, breathing gouts of fire that scorched the earth and terrorized the populace. As a guardian, it was the ultimate territorial warden, a being whose mere existence created a zone of absolute peril, protecting its domain by ensuring no one could survive within it. Its defeat required both divine intervention and mortal courage. The hero Bellerophon, aided by the winged horse Pegasus, engaged the beast in a legendary aerial battle. Soaring above the chimera's fiery breath, Bellerophon drove a lead-tipped spear into its throat. The monster's own heat melted the lead, which then flowed down its windpipe, choking the life from the composite horror. This victory was celebrated not just as the death of a monster, but as the triumph of human order and heroic resolve over the raw, untamed chaos that the chimera represented. It was the final, necessary act of clearing the wilds, a declaration that some guardians must fall for civilization to rise. And so our journey ends, from silent clay armies to this fire-breathing abomination, each guardian a reflection of the profound and often terrifying things humanity has felt worthy of protection across the ages. From the fire-breathing chaos of the chimera to the silent judgment of Anubis, these 28 guardians form a breathtaking tapestry woven from the deepest threads of human imagination. Each one, whether born from clay, fire, or pure spirit, answers a fundamental call. They are the sentinels we placed at the boundaries of our understanding, the protectors we assigned to the treasures we could not bear to lose, and the explanations we crafted for the dangers we could not control. The terracotta army guarded an emperor's quest for immortality, the kraken personified the ocean's unforgiving might, and the banshee honored the solemn transition of death itself. These legends are far more than simple stories. They are a mirror reflecting our collective hopes for safety, our fears of the unknown, and our innate desire to believe that a powerful, watchful presence stands between us and the abyss. They assign meaning to the chaos of existence, transforming a random lightning strike into the blink of the thunderbird's eye, and a treacherous mountain pass into the domain of the wise and punishing Tengu. This need to create guardians is a universal human constant, a testament to our shared psyche. So as these ancient myths echo into our modern world, what legends from your own culture or family stories have been passed down? Who are the guardians that watch over your heritage? And in our age of technology and science, what new sentinels have we created to patrol the frontiers of our contemporary fears, standing vigilant over the digital realms and cosmic mysteries that now define our world? These ancient guardians have not faded into forgotten dust. They have simply found new realms to protect. Our modern books, films, and games are the new sacred groves and hidden tombs, and the archetypes of old have seamlessly migrated into these digital and cinematic landscapes. Think of the terrifying dragons in Game of Thrones. They are not the simple hoarders of medieval lore, but complex instruments of power, symbols of a queen's rightful claim and her terrifying potential for both liberation and destruction. They guard her lineage and her ambition, their fire a direct descendant of the primal chaos that ancient dragons once embodied. Similarly, the epic clashes of Clash of the Titans revitalized beings like the Kraken, presenting it as the ultimate weapon of divine wrath, a guardian of the god's authority against human defiance. These are not just special effects, they are the latest incarnations of a timeless need. Video games have become a particularly potent ground for these myths. Players do not just hear about these guardians, they actively confront them. You might carefully navigate a forest ruled by a leshy-like spirit that warps the paths around you, or face a boss battle against a creature with the piercing gaze of a basilisk, where one wrong move means instant defeat. This interactive experience transforms the ancient stories into personal trials. We are no longer passive listeners around a fire. We are the heroes testing our wits and courage against these digitalized legends. Why do these patterns remain so compellingly powerful? They serve as perfect, pre-built metaphors for the abstract challenges we face in our own lives. The dragon is no longer a beast in a cave, but the embodiment of a crushing debt or a seemingly insurmountable personal goal. The golem represents the terrifying potential of our own creations, from artificial intelligence to social media algorithms when their programming spins beyond our control. The benevolent Simurgh is the mentor who saw our potential when no one else did, while the capricious Puka is the sudden, unexpected life event that takes us on a wild, disorienting ride, ultimately teaching us a lesson we did not know we needed. These guardians give a face and a story to our internal struggles. They externalize our fears about powerlessness, our hopes for guidance, and our awe of the natural world. The specific threats have changed, but the fundamental human experiences have not. We still need protectors for our hopes and explanations for our fears. So the next time you lose yourself in a fantasy series or a role-playing game, listen closely. The whisper of ancient magic is still there. The roar of a dragon, the silent judgment of a weighing heart, the mournful cry on the wind. These are the echoes of our oldest sentinels, forever retooled to guard the ever-shifting frontiers of the human